Hello, everyone. Tonight, I have a story for you. A chilling tale from the life of a man whose ordinary night shift turned into something he could never escape. Before we begin, make yourself comfortable, turn off the lights, and let the darkness settle in around you. We're starting now. My name is Andre. I'm 31, and I work as a night security guard in a small private business center on the outskirts of the city. The job is simple on paper. Sit in the guard room, watch the security cameras, and walk a couple of patrols during the night. The pay isn't great, but for a single guy in a cheap apartment, it's enough. Most nights are quiet. The building is old, 3 stories high, with long echoing corridors and heavy wooden doors that creak when you touch them. At night, it's just me. Sometimes a janitor stops by before midnight, and every now and then a programmer or accountant will hurry in to grab something they left behind. But usually there's nothing, just the hum of the radiators, the faint buzz of the lights, and the occasional groan of the building settling in the cold. It was early December, and winter had already sunk its teeth into the city. By 9 in the evening, the streets outside were covered in a thin layer of snow, and the wind was howling between the neighboring buildings like a living thing. I'd brewed myself a mug of strong coffee, switched the guardroom TV to a quiet channel for background noise, and started flipping between the cameras. Everything looked the same as always. Empty corridors, a dark courtyard, a parking lot with 3 lonely cars under the street lamps. Around midnight, something flickered in the corner of one of the monitors. It was a second-floor camera, the one that covered the old archive room. For just a moment, I thought I saw a movement, the faint shadow of someone slipping past the door. I rewound the feed, leaned in, and saw nothing definite. Probably just static, I told myself. That camera is the oldest one in the system, and it glitches now and then. Still, I found myself glancing back at it every few minutes. Half an hour later, I noticed something else. The archive door was slightly open. I frowned. Earlier that day, I'd been upstairs during the day shift's handover and had closed it myself. I always kept a key in my pocket. I grabbed my flashlight and headed out. My footsteps echoed down the empty first-floor corridor, the sound bouncing off the walls and ceiling. The air was warm, but still carried that faint, dusty scent of old furniture and paper. As I climbed to the second floor, the temperature dropped slightly, and the familiar smell of old documents grew stronger, dry and unpleasant, the kind that sticks in the back of your throat. The archive door was indeed ajar, just wide enough for me to see darkness beyond it. I stepped closer, pushed it open slowly, and shone my flashlight inside. Rows of shelves loomed in the beam, each stacked with folders and boxes, all covered in a thin layer of dust. Nothing moved. I checked the corners, found nothing out of place, and closed the door again. This time I made sure to lock it. Halfway back down the stairs, I heard something behind me, soft, deliberate footsteps. I froze, my heart suddenly thudding in my chest. Slowly, I turned, scanning the dimly lit landing with my flashlight. Nothing, just shadows and the low creak of the building. I swallowed hard and forced myself to keep moving. When I got back to the monitors, my stomach tightened. The archive door was open again. I had just locked it minutes ago. I rewound the footage, watching closely. The door on the screen was inching open by itself, slowly, as though pushed by some invisible hand. A cold shiver ran up my spine. I didn't believe in ghosts or supernatural nonsense, but this was wrong. Still, I told myself there had to be an explanation. Maybe the latch hadn't caught. I picked up my flashlight again. Walking that same hallway felt different now. The silence seemed heavier, as if the air itself was pressing in. On the second floor, the corridor felt longer than it should have. When I reached the archive, the door was wide open this time. Inside was pitch black. I hit the light switch. The ceiling lamps flickered several times before buzzing to life, casting a sickly yellow glow over the shelves. That's when I saw them. Footprints on the dusty floor. Clear, dirty prints from heavy boots. The kind that left a deep tread. They didn't lead deeper into the room. They led out. Back at my desk, I checked every camera. That's when I saw him. On the third floor, in the middle of the corridor, stood a figure. He was blurred by the grainy image, but unmistakably human. He faced the wall, completely still. I stared, trying to make sense of it, and then, slowly, he turned his head toward the camera. The feed cut out instantly, replaced by static. The other cameras still worked. My hands were slick with sweat as I grabbed the landline phone. The line was dead. No dial tone, no click, nothing like it had been cut. I pulled out my cell phone. Full bars, but the call wouldn't connect. Panic rising, I decided to leave. I hurried to the main doors, already picturing the cold air outside, the relief of stepping out. But the heavy doors were bolted from the outside. From the outside, that wasn't possible. I had checked them at the start of my shift. I turned back toward the desk, unsure what to do next, and froze when I glanced at the monitor for the first floor. Someone had just walked past the guard desk, right past where I was sitting minutes ago. The shape, the clothes, the gait, it was me, my double on the grainy footage, turned toward the camera and smiled. The grin was impossibly wide, stretched in a way no human face should be able to manage. What happened next is a blur in my memory. The cold in the corridors grew sharper, like a winter wind was seeping from the walls. Whispers seemed to follow me no matter where I went. Not words, just a low hiss. Footsteps echoed behind me at every turn, always just out of sight. Somehow, I ended up at the archive again, and there he was, standing in the shadows at the far end of the room. My exact face, my build, my clothes, but the skin was a dull, unhealthy gray, and the eyes were darker, almost black. He didn't blink, he just stared. Then, slowly, he stepped closer until his face was inches from mine. When he spoke, his voice was my own, but wrong, lower, hollow, like it was coming from somewhere deep underground. "Now it's my turn," he whispered. That's the last thing I remember. 2 days later, a new security guard took the night shift. On the desk, they found my coffee mug, the coffee inside long cold, and the keys to every door. All the cameras were running, but the recordings from that night showed nothing at all. The archive was locked tight, and I was never seen again. And that brings our story to an end. If you enjoyed it, make sure to subscribe, hit the like button, and ring the bell so you don't miss any of my daily uploads. I share new scary stories every single day, so there's always another nightmare waiting for you. See you next time, if you dare.